Hey, what's going on, everyone? Today on the San Diego Jeep Club project build, man, we are in the shop and we have got a lot going on today, John. What's the plan?
Huge transformation today. So we're going to be installing the Icon Vehicle Dynamics 4.5-inch suspension lift. We're also going to be installing the Dynatracs Pro 60 axles and then some TrailRecon wheels with some MTR tires.
Man, we're going to transform the Jeep a lot. Now today we are just focusing on the lift kit, and then we'll do another video talking about the axles and the tires. What's going on with the lift? Give us some details.
So the suspension lift, like I said, it's a 4.5-inch lift kit. So we're going to have the 2.5-inch remote reservoir Omega bypass shocks, and we're going to be installing some hydraulic bump stops too for the front axle.
It's going to give us a lot of clearance, right?
Huge difference.
Definitely going to take some before and after measurements so we can see how it goes. Okay, all right, guys. Well, we've got how many people coming in the garage today?
6 to 8 people. They're going to show up and then lend a big hand getting this stuff done.
We're going to need all those hands. So today, guys, we are focusing on the lift. You're definitely going to want to stick around because we're going to be talking about the axles and tires in a future video. Let's get started, John.
Absolutely.
This project ended up taking our team 2 full days to complete. So in this video, we're just going to show you some of the highlights of the install and a couple challenges that we had to overcome. Before we started anything, we took a few measurements to see just how much lift we would get in the end when it's all finished with the new lift, axles, and tires. Stick around to the end of the video so you can see all the numbers. San Diego Jeep Club is very fortunate to have one of its club members that has a small shop, and he allows us to use his lift for projects like this from time to time. It makes a world of difference when doing something like this. The underside of this 2012 Jeep is bone stock and appears to have lived a pretty easy life. While the stock Jeep components are solid, having a taller lift, beefier axles, and some larger tires are going to significantly increase this Jeep's abilities. The lift kit that's going to be installed here is Icon Vehicle Dynamics 4.5-inch Stage 5 system, and it includes a lot of parts to include front and rear dual rate springs, all new beefy front and rear links, the pan rod bars with brackets, new extended brake lines with all the necessary hardware, and their front and rear adjustable shocks with the 2.5-inch Omega bypass. And we've also got Icon's 2.0 hydraulic air bump stops, plus they added a new adjustable steering stabilizer, which is really going to help manage these new bigger wheels and tires. After removing all the tires, the team began disassembly of all the suspension components. Because we will be swapping out the axles, everything needs to come off, to include the drive line, which you would not normally need to do in a basic lift kit install. The crew also made quick work of removing the sway bars, taking out the shocks, pulling off the brake calipers, vent lines, and the emergency brake lines. Next, they removed all the bolts holding the upper and lower control arms in place. The one challenge that we did encounter was that new big boat slider that was installed. It made it difficult to access the upper control arm bolt, so it took a little persuasion, but the guys were able to overcome, no problems.
Ready?
Yep,
1, 2, 3. Hold on. There we go. Cool. Woo.
All right, John, they just got the rear axle off. That went pretty quick.
Yeah, real quick, about 30 minutes or so. Couple four guys.
What's next?
So now we got the rear axle out. We're going to work on the front. We're going to drop the front axle, get all the suspension components off of there, get the whole bare underside of the Jeep.
Nice. This is actually going smoother than we expected.
Oh, you just cursed us.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Wow. Woo! Question is, what are you doing with all this stuff, John? So just a quick side-by-side of the stock axles next to these new Dana 60s. Man, what a nice upgrade this is. So just like the rear, everything needs to come off. The drive shaft, the sway bar links, the brake calipers, and control arms. But also in the front you have the steering linkage. And this Jeep is not going to be reusing any of the stock components for steering. And a Pitman arm puller is preferred, but the team found it easier just to use a ball joint separator and a little bit of motivation.
You probably move the arm in just in case you need to get back in there with the bolt. Yeah, so move that arm in.
There you go. Oh! Oh, yeah. Straight down, straight down, straight down.
Watch your hands.
Toes. Oh my God.
All right, John, we got the axles and everything, all the suspension ripped out. That was pretty fast. Thankfully, we had a lift, right? What's the plan of attack here for the Icon suspension?
So first thing we're going to do is put all the control arms. We're going to install them onto the Jeep first, get all the components for the suspension on the Jeep, and then we'll wind up lowering the Jeep down to fit them up to the axles and then line up everything there.
Nice. Well, hopefully it goes as well in as it did out. But man, I got to tell you, these are pretty nice. This is some solid gear here, right?
Yeah, pretty beefy and strong.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to seeing this mounted up there. Let's get started, huh?
Yep.
Installing all 8 new control arms was pretty straightforward. They did grease up the bushings and adjusted them to the recommended length and fit tested everything with the new axles just to make sure it would line up when we lower the Jeep on them. And just like before, those boat sliders were making it difficult to get that upper control arm bolt in there. But you know what? Boat sliders are meant to get scratched up, so nobody was really stressed out about it.
Getting ready to put the exhaust spacers on right now to make sure there's clearance for the drive shaft and there's not going to be any rubbing issues. Oh, jeez. Over here with some more lube.
I have 2 size exhaust spacers. The shorter spacer goes on the driver's side and the longer spacer goes on the passenger side.
With everything set to go on the Jeep to be able to lower it onto the axles, we turned our attention to the axles themselves. We installed the springs, the spring retaining pucks, and the bump stops. The guys took their time lowering the Jeep down onto the axles just to make sure everything was aligned. And then, once everything was squared away, they made quick work of installing the lower control arms, the track bar, and then the new shocks. Now, installing shocks should be one of the easiest things you do on a lift kit, but as you'll see here, we had just a little bit of a challenge.
All right. Yeah.
Well, the knob to control the shock is interfering with the sway bar. And if you rotate it more this way, then the reservoir on the outside is interfering with the track bar bracket. Because this track bar bracket is much bigger on the Dana 60 than what this was designed for the regular 44.
44, yeah.
So there was quite a bit of time spent on trying to figure out how to get these shocks just to fit right with the new suspension and these Dana 60s. And so John just ended up making a call to Icon to figure out what was going on. Stick around to the end of the video. I think you'll get a little bit of a laugh on what the solution was. All right, John, what we got with these bump stops here?
So now we got the Icon hydraulic bump stops. So what we need to do is on the top of this coil bucket here, there's going to be this little lip. We're going to grind this off. There's this weld point around here. We're going to grind the weld off and then knock this bucket off, which allows us to put this sleeve in here. And then this sleeve will then house the hydraulic bump stop here.
Nice.
Should be like that.
I got it. What you doing there, John?
So we're going to use a little bit of the anti-seize here, and it says to just apply it to the bump stop cylinder. So when the cylinder goes into this steel shaft here, I guess it won't corrode or rust inside there.
You want it kind of like in there?
Yeah, I guess, and then we can adjust it up or down as needed. So the bracket that they provided for the remote reservoir, oh, there we go, mounts up right here, and these bolts go in here. The problem is getting a nut back in here, which that may be not too hard, do that. But right here, there is no access point. You cannot get a nut anywhere behind that. Not sure how we're gonna do that. The only way I can think of doing it is drill these out, putting a nut cert in here, and then putting these in through the nutsert to lock this in place.
Well, we've done lots of nutserts on this Jeep. We know all about them.
Yep.
And an even better solution is to weld it up. And thankfully we had a welder here in the garage and someone that knew how to use it. Mike did a great job of welding this up. After he was done, we threw a quick coat of paint on there and it was all set to go. When it came time to lower the Jeep onto the front axle, we were really hoping it was going to go as easy as it did on the rear, but things just were not lining up. Now, we are just average guys that really have been turning wrenches on Jeeps for a while, but none of us in the group had ever installed axles before, so this was a first. And it did require quite a bit of manhandling and finagling just to get everything to line up before we finally got it all bolted in.
All right, let's focus on those guys. Leg workout done. There we go.
After finally getting those control arms attached to the axle, it was time to call it a day. You know, we had been in the garage for a long time, but it was a great time turning wrenches with everybody. So on day 2, we came back and we installed the front shocks, and then we started working on the drag link and the tie rod and getting all the steering squared away. Well, almost. Let John tell you the rest. All right, John, I know we ran into a speed bump with the steering stabilizer. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. So since we don't have the factory axles on here, we got the Dana 60s. So Icon provides this bracket. This bracket actually bolts down with the U-bolt to the factory axle, right? And you see here where we have our drag link. This would actually connect up through here. I'll just kind of give you there as a visual. And then this would allow us to use the centerline steering stabilizer to mount to the tie rod. And then this right here would connect up to this.
It's an external mount.
It's an external mount. So what we have here on this one is this mount is up and down like this, right? It's set up really for kind of the PSC, and we're not able to get these bushings and this eyelet into that location. It's just too big, again, because this is bent. External mount right here.
Right, so the solution is we gotta get different stabilizer or different bushing, right?
One of the two, right, yeah. So if we get a different bushing that allow this to thin down and fit this inside this location, then we should be set. Otherwise, we're gonna have to go with another steering stabilizer other than this one.
So there's still a few more things left to do, but that's a wrap for the lift kit. So let's slap some tires on this thing. Let's go talk with John and get some measurements and show you how this Jeep turned out. So John, by the magic of film, we have advanced a little over a month since the original install.
Yep.
Let's kind of recap a little bit about some of the things that you had to work through. What happened with the steering stabilizer?
So the steering stabilizer, originally the eyelet, the part that's on the stem that connects to the axle part, wasn't large enough to fit in, right? So the bolt wouldn't fit in and it wouldn't sit correctly because we got aftermarket axles, right? So we got to make sure we fit everything correctly. It's meant for stock axles. We got aftermarket axles. We got to make some changes. So the eyelet part that fits into the receiver didn't allow enough clearance. There's a little flange on the eyelet part, so it wouldn't allow it to seat in correctly. So I need to figure out if I want to, cut some off of the eyelet piece so it allows it to fit in correctly, or look for another aftermarket steering stabilizer.
Okay, so still a work in progress.
Still a work in progress, sir.
Okay, so one of the other things I know we worked through was the rear shocks.
Right.
Where are we at with those?
Rear shocks are on now. Everything is good to go. There was a problem. The shocks are labeled specifically for each side of the Jeep. So one had right side, one had left side, but unfortunately they were not labeled correctly. So a quick call with Icon, talked to them about it. They said that the labels were not on there correctly. We reseated them to the right location and it was good to go.
Nice, easy fix.
Yeah.
Okay, now look, I love the stance.
Oh yeah.
Where are we at with the lift? What do we get?
We gained a lot, not only just in the suspension, but the other items we added on as well. So we're at 10-inch lift overall from the stock to where it is now. And we have a 9-inch increase in arrival and a 9-inch increase in departure angle.
So with a 4.5-inch lift, 37-inch tires, and the Dynatrac, we gained almost 10 inches overall.
Yep.
Man, that's amazing. That's amazing. So now you've been driving around for a while. How is it on and off-road?
Both on and off-road are really, really well. It handles really well. So on-road, right, going on the highway or just traveling around, suspension's tight. There's not a lot of body roll. It works really well. Nice. Off-road, you can customize the shocks so you can get a softer or a harder feel for it, and that really made a huge difference over the original shocks from the factory.
Do you have a favorite setting that you're sitting at?
Still trying to tune it in right now. I'm sure I'm going to get it in, but it's going to be different for like sand and rock travel, going on the rocks and things like that. So it's going to be customized to where we're going to go.
Right on. Well, John, we have come a long way, man.
We did.
And it looks great. What's kind of the immediate future things you're going to be doing?
We got some more things to do. So with the aftermarket axles we put on there, I'm going to put on some anti-rocks, Curry anti-rocks on the front and back. I got some armor for the belly, skid plates. So we got the transfer keys, the engine, the gas tank, some things to do there. I got a roll cage ordered, it's in my garage. I got ready to install.
Nice.
Got to get that all fitted in and send off the powder coating. So we got some more stuff to do.
Awesome. Well, really looking forward to the continuous evolution of this.
Yeah.
Guys, I hope you have enjoyed this video. We're gonna do a follow-up video here after this one talking about the axle and the tires, so stay tuned for that. If you're visiting the channel for the first time, hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you as a member of the TrailRecon team. And make sure you head over to www.sdjc.rocks to find out more information about this build. John, we'll see you again next time, brother.
Absolutely.
Thanks for watching, guys.